Welcome back. Let's have another example on composition and aggregation. We have a team class here as a container class, and we have a class of player as a content class. The team owns the players here. So let's start by the player class, which is the content class, and let's have our constructor. So we have define, the init function, and we have our self here with extra arguments, the name of the player and his position. Of course, we start having these instances, self.name equals name, and we have similarly self.position equals position. Let's have other functions here, the details of the player. So we have another function here, define get details with the argument self. What will this function do? It will return the name of the player and his position. So return using the f string and between quotations the player, and using the placeholder self.name has the position self.position. And of course, self.position between curled brackets. Let's have another function that gives the case of training. So let's here have define, train, a function called train, another method in the class player. And let's have our self between brackets. It prints self.name is training card as self.position. Of course, the name here and the position here will be passed to the arguments name and position after the instance is created. Let's go now to the other class, the container class, which is class team. And let's have the instructor of it. So we have here, instead of our pass, we define the constructor. So we have the init function here. And with the self, we will add the team name. So have our comma here and the other argument, team name. And let's of course have our self.team name equals team name. Now the composition part comes. The instances of the class player, the objects of the content class, will be created inside the constructor of the container class, which is class team. So we have here self.players, and in this example we will use a list. So we have our equals, our square bracket for the list. So we have player here. And let's have our attributes, the name, Alice, and the position, forward. The content class instance is created inside the constructor of the container class with the attributes of the content class name and position here, Alice and forward respectively. Let's create another instance here. So calling the player class and passing the attributes of the player class name and position. Let's have Bob for name and goalkeeper as position. Let's have another function or another method inside the class of team. Define show team and have our self here. What will this method do? First, it will print the name of the team. So print between the brackets using the f string, and let's have our team here is placeholder self.team name. the show team will do something else. For each player, it will get the details of the player here. Because once the instance of the players is created, it has the authority to go to the player class and call any method or attribute in it. So it can call the get details and it can call train. So let's have a for loop here for each player. For player in self.players, which is this list here in self.players. Print player.getDetails. So we have here print player, our counter here in the for loop, dot call the function of get details. And let's have our brackets here. Let's have another function that calls the train method in the content class. So let's have here define train team, and of course have ourself here. It prints training of the team name, so training of between curly brackets self dot the attribute here team name, which is the attribute of the container class, and of course we have our f string here and the quotation. The method train team here has the authority now to call an attribute of the container and has the authority to call any method or attribute in the content class, because now the team class owns the player class or owns the instances in the player. So let's have here for player in self.players for our colon and player, call the method train, which is the content method. Outside all classes here in the main program, let's define the object of the container class, team, let's say team 1. It is created using the class team with the attribute of the team name. So let's have here, say red dragons. Once team 1 is created, this instance has the authority to call any method in the container class. So show team and train team. On having a run now, we expect the main program to be executed. So the container object here, team1, is created and the method show team is called. What does this method do? It prints the name of the team, and for each player it gets the details. So it recognizes the players through the list created here, self.players concerning the content class and created inside the constructor of the container class, and it gets the details of each player here using the method in the content class. It returns the name and the position of each player in this list. After executing the show team here, it goes to the train team. The method train team here in our container class will first print the team name, then it will print the train for each player. Again, it recognizes the players through the instance created in its constructor, and it calls the dot train from the content class here. So let's have our run and see the output. Yes, the show team is executed here It gives the name of the team and the details of each player. And the train team is called, our train team here is in the container class, train team. It gives the team name, Red Dragons, and it gives the .train method for each player. So it gives Alice is training as forward, Bob is training as goalkeeper. This train here is defined in the content class player. This is our composition. The instance of the content player is defined in the container team class. In this example, we had a list for this instance. Let's move to the aggregation using the same player and team classes. For our aggregation, we have class player, the content class, and the container class, class team. Maybe here content and container classes are not so much accurate terms for aggregation, but anyhow, we need to differentiate between those classes. In aggregation, the players, which are the instances of the content class, are created outside and passed to the team, which is the container class. So we have class player, exactly the same as created before in the composition. We have the init function here with self, name, position as arguments. We have two methods, get details, to get the details of the player, the name and his position. We have another method, method train here, which again uses the name and the position attributes passed to those arguments here. Concerning the player, we have the container class, class team, with the constructor and the arguments self and team name. Let's have another argument here, the players. And let's create the instances of the players outside here in the main program. So here in the main program, we will do two things. We will create the players independently and then aggregate them into a team. Creating the players independently, let's say player 1 here equals the class player to create the instance with the name of the player, say Alice, and the position of forward. And let's have another instance, player 2, created calling the class player with the name and position. Let's now create the object of the container class team. So let's have the instance team 1, say, created using the class team, with the attributes to be passed to the arguments in team. So we have our first attribute here is the team name and the second is the players. So let's have the team name, say Red Dragon. And let's pass the players to the instance of the team. This is aggregation. We aggregate the instances of the content class to the instance of the container class here. So let's have here a list of player 1 and player 2. Player 1, comma, player 2. Let's go back to the team class and aggregate those players here. So let's have self.players equals the players here. This is aggregation. We aggregated the players inside the class team, but after defining them outside the classes in the main program here. After creating this team 1, it has the authority to call any method inside the team. So it calls show team and train team here. On having a run and examining the output here, we have the same output as previous. This concludes with our aggregation. The instances of the content class are created outside, aggregated in the object of the container class here, and inside the team also. We aggregate the instances. Hoping this example made a clear difference between composition and aggregation.